सामान्य लोकांना जीवन सुसह्य व्हावं यासाठी काम करत राहिले. अनिल अग्रवाल यांनी जी सेंटर फॉर सायन्स अँड एन्व्हायरमेंट चालू केली, ज्याच्या संचालक आज आपल्यामध्ये आहेत आणि नंतर त्यासंबंधी त्या बोलतील, ही देशातली एकमेव संस्था आहे जिथे सर्वसामान्य लोकांच्यासाठी संशोधन केलं जातं आणि त्यांच्या संशोधनाला कोणी आव्हान देऊ शकत नाही. इतकं भक्कम, इतकं कुशाग्र संशोधन तिथं केलं जातं. अनिल अग्रवाल हे जेव्हा काम करत होते त्यावेळेला अनेक निमित्तांनी मी अनेक ठिकाणी हिंडत होतो आणि असं वाटत होतं की जर्मनीमध्ये जी ग्रीन पार्टी फॉर्म झालेली होती त्या ग्रीन पार्टी जणू काही कम्युनिस्ट पक्षासारखी आता सगळीकडे पसरेल, देशात पसरेल आणि इथून पुढचा राजकीय बदल घडवण्याचं काम, अंतिम उद्दिष्ट आपलं जे आहे की राजकीय बदल घडवता आला पाहिजे, ते काम कदाचित कम्युनिस्ट पक्षानंतर आता ग्रीन पार्टी करेल अशी आशा 1980 साली वाटत होती. त्यामुळे मी देशभर अशा ठिकाणी हिंडत होतो की जिथं काही चुणूक दिसते आणि पर्यावरणाचं आंदोलन उभं राहते. म्हणून मी अगदी चमोलीला चिपको आंदोलनामध्ये जाऊन आलो, सायलेंट व्हॅलीचं आंदोलन पाहिलं, किंवा भोपाळचं एक प्रचंड उत्पात झाला त्यावेळेला भोपाळमध्ये जाऊन राहिलो. या सगळ्यामधून हे पुस्तक आकार घेत गेलेलं आहे. म्हणजे अनिल अग्रवाल यांचं कार्य, त्या काळातले अनेक विचार आणि माझे प्रत्यक्ष अनुभव यामधून हे पुस्तक आकार घेत गेलेलं आहे. आणि या प्रसंगी असं म्हणजे सांगावं असं वाटतं की पर्यावरणवादाची इथून पुढची वाटचाल कशी असेल. तर या पुस्तकाची सुरुवात ज्यांच्या वाक्यांनी होते ते प्रोफेसर MS स्वामीनाथन असं म्हणतात की इथून पुढं आपल्याला नकार घंटा वाजवणारे पर्यावरणवादी नको आहेत, आपल्याला कृती आणि पर्याय दाखवणारे पर्यावरणवादी हवेत. आणि म्हणून या पुस्तकाचा जो मथळा आहे तो बखर पर्यावरणाची आणि सबटायटल त्याचं उपशीर्षक आहे आणि विवेकी पर्यावरणवाद्याची. आपल्याला विवेकी पर्यावरणवादी हवेत. पर्यावरण का विकास या द्वंद्वात आपण खूप वेळ घालवला आणि आपलं कदाचित खूप नुकसान झालं असेल. इथून पुढच्या काळामध्ये जाताना मला असं वाटतं की कार्ल मार्क्स यांनी म्हटल्याप्रमाणे विकास आणि पर्यावरण हे थिसिस आणि अँटिथिसिस नाही आहेत, हे सिद्धांत आणि प्रतिसिद्धांत नाही आहेत. विकास आणि पर्यावरण यांचं सिंथेसिस, यांचं संश्लेषण होणं आवश्यक आहे. त्यासाठी इथून पुढं आपण प्रयत्न करूया. माझ्या प्रेमाखातर लातूरहून, उस्मानाबादहून, अशा दूरदूर गावाहून अनेक लोक इथं जमलेले आहेत. या सर्वांचा मी अतिशय ऋणी आहे आणि त्या ऋणात राहणंच मी पसंत करेन. आजचा प्रसंग माझ्या आयुष्यातला मला वाटतं कमालीचा महत्त्वाचा प्रसंग आहे. एवढा आनंदाचा प्रसंग मी यानंतर कल्पना करू शकत नाही, कारण एवढे सगळे ज्यांच्या आम्ही खांद्यावर उभा हे सगळे एकत्र इथं जमलेले आहेत. या सर्वांच्या बद्दल कृतज्ञता मी व्यक्त करतो. मुरलीधर चैनी यांनी हा हॉल उपलब्ध करून दिला, चंद्रहास देशपांडे, मौज प्रकाशनाचे संजय भागवत, माधवराव भागवत, संपादिका मोनिका गजेंद्र गडकर, चित्र काढणारा माझा मित्र सतीश भावसार, या सर्वांच्या बद्दल मी कृतज्ञता व्यक्त करतो आणि थांबतो. धन्यवाद.
Today, Sri Chaini, who is also hosting the meeting, very respected Kumar Ketkaji, my dear friend Sunitaji, and of course the great author Atulji. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a very moving occasion for those who know, who have had the privilege of knowing Anil Agarwal for a long time. I met him soon after he finished his studies at IIT Kanpur, and I was working at the Pusa Institute in Delhi, and And he came to me one day and said, I'm not clear what kind of career I should take up. Should I continue with my professional engineering or do something else? I don't like to go on continuing for MS, PhD and so on in IIT. I would like to do something which is more meaningful to my life as well as to other people's life. Then we casually talked about environmental issues, and also I said, there are needs for people like you, well-informed persons, also to create a greater public understanding and political understanding of issues relating to environment. At that time, the Chipko Andolan, where many of you know, the Hug the Tree in the Himalayas, had begun, and many of our media people were starting to give Alaknanda flash floods later on occurred. A lot of questions about why all this is happening. And he then joined the Hindustan Times, later on the Indian Express, and of course founded his own organization. And I think in the last, ever since they started the Center for Science and Environment, he and Sunita have been the two pillars of the organization. And today she is continuing to carry out the vision of Anil, what he wanted to accomplish, with great deal of dedication and distinction. If you want to, I can go on talking for hours about Anil, but I was thinking how to structure my remarks about him. And it occurred to me at the World Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg, they identified 5 major areas of great concern in the field of environment. This is called WEHAB: water, energy, health, agriculture, and biodiversity. This is the WEHAB agenda. These were the 5 issues discussed at Johannesburg as some of the foundations for a sustainable society or a sustainable human life in this planet. If you look at all these, water, for example, Anil Agarwal and Sunita Narayan jointly, their contributions have been really monumental. I am not saying this because I know them, I'm a good friend of them, admirer of them. But last year at the World Water Summit in Stockholm, Sunita, on behalf of the Center for Science and Environment, received the World Water Prize from His Majesty the King of Sweden. It was a very prestigious prize. And for the first time, I think they took an organization which was working at the grassroots, because water is everybody's business. That is the theme of both Anil and Sunita. In fact, strangely, my last meeting with Anil Agarwal was when I accompanied him and Sunita to Rajasthan. There was a problem about the water harvesting work of Rajendra Singh, who later on became very famous because he got the Magsaysay Award and so on. But you won't believe, there is some act of, in the British days of 1860s or so, which says the rainwater belongs to government. Rainwater does not belong to people. They say it belongs to the people now. But because he was harvesting the rainwater, they said it's a violation of that particular act. And they were trying to arrest him under that act, because sometimes, we still have some Societies Act of 1865 or something. Similarly, there are some acts here. If you want to get into trouble, they can do it, from dating to the 18th, 17th, 19th century and so on. So anyway, we went and then we met the then Chief Minister, explained to him. He was very nice. Ashok Gehlot was a very nice person. He did issue instructions that nothing should be done to Rajendra Singh. And within a few days, he also got the Magsaysay Award. And then it changed the whole perception of his work. I'm explaining this because Rajendra Singh, or what we call Jal Swaraj, the movement called Jal Swaraj, or self-reliance in water, is really a movement started by Anil Agarwal and Sunita Narayan. They have written books on dying wisdom, the early days of conservation, including Maharashtra. So many methods of conservation of water were there, which have now gone back. We have to revive all of them. The dying wisdom, that's why they call it. Do not allow dying wisdom and vanishing crops. Then if you go to energy, I think the height of their achievement was the introduction of CNG in Delhi. It was again another big struggle. How do you really get the energy policy of the country changed in a way that enormous pollution, atmospheric pollution, doesn't take place, and we have a sustainable energy security system. Again, a seminal contribution in that area. And as I said, when you now go in Delhi or some other places, when you see those green CNGs, you have to thank Anil Agarwal and Sunita. They went to the court, they took every means, public education, political education, and legal fight. All of them, the three pillars of that strategy. When both public education and political education are not so effective, then you have to get legal redress, and fortunately our judiciary has been very... And health, what already mention was made. Anil Agarwal has chronicled the problems of his own health, his cancer problem, and he attributes it to pesticide residues and pollution. The environmental health problems have again been documented. If you see every issue of the Down to Earth, you will find. The area of agriculture again, because whether it is the pesticide in the bottled water or many other kinds of problems come also from the excessive use of pesticide. I think a mention was made by to Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, which started global awareness of this very important issue. So a large amount of work has been done in the field. When I say agriculture, it is crop husbandry, animal husbandry, fisheries and forestry. They have also written and worked about, we don't call it animal rights, but the fact remains the modern factory farms, even recent H5N1 strain and the avian flu. If you read Down to Earth, you will find the implications of a complete change in the method of management and rearing of animals and so on. The mad cow disease in England was also a very good example of changing the diet of the animal. A vegetarian was converted to non-vegetarian, and the problems came with reference to the animals. So you have then the whole question of biodiversity. I know personally they both have played a very important role in the Global Biodiversity Convention, also the Global Climate Convention, the Framework Convention, because I saw them how active they were in Rio de Janeiro, where both the Climate Convention and the Biodiversity Convention. And more recently, as you know, when we have tiger was disappearing from our country, except in the walls, photographs, and so on. The Prime Minister turned to Sunita Narayan to chair a committee, a task force, on how to save the tiger. And of course, she said, we have to save the tiger, and we have by saving the people. Simple, because you can't have a conflict between man and nature. How to harmonize both of them? How do we live in harmony with each other? And that was the message of the Tiger Task Force, which she so brilliantly chaired. I think the report, if you have not read it, it's very worthwhile reading. Again, the imprint of Anil Agarwal. Anil Agarwal brought the force of his logic, the force of his tongue, the force of his pen for the purpose of advocacy of very important causes. That's why I am personally happy, because my early conversation of the need for greater public understanding and political understanding, and of course, as I said, the legal redress and understanding, all of them have become important. I am very grateful to Atul ji for writing the work. I can't read Marathi, but I know he also wrote a book on me. He has a tremendous capacity to write it in a way, it's a biography, at the same time it's a chronicle of contemporary events. It is a method of relating environment, sort of weaving the life of a person. It was Anil, you can't really, I'm very happy Sunita has started the Center for Science and Environment, and Anil Agarwal Green College, in order to train a large number of young people in green auditing, in green, in the whole thinking. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. Even tiger, for example, of course, the people who use the poor people to kill the tiger for the bones or the skin, they are all rich people. They only use the tribals or the poor people to do what they want to do. But the fact remains, in this country, we require much more environmental literacy. We have a number of environmentalists, but I won't say we are very environmental literate. If we are, then we won't have all the problems of sanitation. In fact, one of the things she organized at Stockholm during the World Water Prize Symposium was the whole question of toilets and sanitation of our country, the very sad state of it. So many diseases today, if you talk to pediatricians, they will say many of them are related to the gastroenteritis, the gastric infection, various kinds of problems. So we are celebrating the life and work of Anil Agarwal through this wonderful book, and I want to thank you again, Atulji. And he has himself been a victim, Latur, of course, that particular earthquake, I don't know how it happened. But anyway, the fact remains, those who know natural calamities, they have a greater feeling for the Mother Earth. They know much more than others, because they have gone through this kind of crisis. We want to thank the publisher and all of you who are here to give support to this cause. Today, as I said, we are celebrating the life of Anil Agarwal through this book. What is important is not only celebration in words, but I think it's important that we also, in some respects, we remember all these water, energy, health, agriculture, biodiversity, and all of them impinge on climate. Finally, climate is overarching, whether it is global warming or sea level rise. Mumbai people should particularly be concerned with potential sea level rise, because you are just living on the sea, and many of them. And therefore, I think it is in each one of our interest, as they wrote about water is everybody's business, environment is everybody's business. It is too serious a business to be left to government alone. And that's why I'm very happy to see eminent journalists here who have been raising the voice of environment and trying to struggle for a better future for our children and better present for all of us. Again, thank you, Atulji, for writing the book and asking me to be here today. Thank you very much.
Honorable Mr. Swaminathan, the chairperson here, Mr. Jaini, Sunita Narayan, author Atul Deulgaonkar. Here we have even former Naval Chief Admiral Vishnu Bhagwat, Jayant Vaidya, who is the mentor of Atul, many well-known people, ladies and gentlemen. It is rather embarrassing for me to talk on environment because I am not exactly known as a member of the environmental movement. I am also not agriculturist. And so, having to speak here in presence of a well-known environmentalist and a leader of a movement, global movement, and a world-class scientist and agriculturist who worked with Norman Borlaug, who recently got Bharat Bhushan or Padma Vibhushan. And therefore, this embarrassment is concealed only by the profession called journalism. Because we are in a position to teach Swaminathan a little bit of agriculture, and we can also teach Sunita Narayan a little bit of environment. And since though it is called mass media, it is generally operating from one end to the reader. And the reader has to just receive and suffer in silence. So that being my right, I finally agreed to Atul's request to address this August gathering. When Dr. Swaminathan met Anil Agarwal in the early 70s, that was a period when actually environmentalist movement began. We do not have environmentalism or environmentalist movement in the 50s. Though actually India was in a unique position under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi, who thought about, without calling it ecology or environmental movement, who wrote, who actually practiced a lot of environmentalist ideas during his time without converting that into environmental movement. But what he thought was that environmental movement was a part of the political movement of freedom. So for him, environment and development, political freedom and economic freedom, liberation from the caste or other hierarchies all were together as one holistic approach towards life, towards politics. And so environmentalism became, during Gandhiji's time, under Gandhiji's leadership, as part of politics, as part of freedom movement. And therefore it did not get the special attention which began to be given after the 60s. It was in the 60s the environmental movement began, not as an environmental movement, but it actually began, spread, I would not say began. It spread under the anti-war movement in the United States and in Europe. When the whole young crowd of intellectuals, writers, poets, artists began to question everything that was going in the name of capitalism and war. They were able to connect capitalism and war through the link of what they described as neo-imperialism when America was bombing Vietnam, perhaps even worse than what it is bombing Iraq today. And many soldiers who came back, luckily alive, back to US, said that such beautiful jungles in Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia, in the whole Southeast Asia, were being burnt from the B-2 and B-52 bombers. Many of us know about the Orange and how the destruction of the ecology that took place in Southeast Asia. So they were able to connect capitalism, and which Lenin had said would lead to imperialism. Imperialism was the highest stage of capitalism, and war was the inevitable result. Nowadays it is not fashionable to quote either Lenin or Marx because they are supposed to be dead and gone politically, historically and philosophically. Well, many of us who actually experience in our surroundings that the system which went in the name of Marxism-Leninism may have gone, but the principles which they enunciated continue to be with us, and therefore, as I think Cheney very correctly said, that we can incorporate these ideas irrespective of what system you are practicing. Soviet Union may have disappeared, but Marx has not, notwithstanding London economist declaring that he is dead and gone forever. The point is not Marx, however. The point is also not Lenin, because we know that Soviet Union completely under its communist leadership destroyed the ecological systems of Soviet Union. Most of the Russia, Ukraine, they have suffered ecological disasters comparable or perhaps even more than what United States capitalism destroyed. In capitalist Europe and America, at least, there could be environmental movement and people could fight back the atrocities against environment. But in Russia, the movements could not be organized, and therefore, under the authoritarian leadership of the Communist Party, the ecology of Soviet Union was greatly destroyed. Therefore, I said it is not a question of Marx or Lenin and not the systems, the principles. The point is not exactly what you do with ecology, but how do you understand ecology, as I think is the question which I think is addressed by Atul in this book, and I think it was addressed by Anil Agarwal first, that you cannot separate politics and ecology. And if you forget one, you forget the other and you destroy the other, actually create anarchy. So when the anti-war movement was going on, it was also the movement of rock and jazz. So the movement was in art, the movement was in music, the movement was against the war. The movement was actually a counter-culture movement. The hippie movement, which was mentioned just now, and the counter-culture movement were hand in hand together. Many of the leading intellectuals, even of the so-called right, or many of the leading liberals in the world today, trace their intellectual development and concern for society even in the right wing. The liberal wing, of course, and a large number of them in the left wing, all over Europe and America even today, trace their ideas, trace their legacy of ideas to the 1960s. And as I said, the 1960s did not begin with the movement for environmentalism. It was movement for liberation from all kinds of oppression. All kinds of oppression meant also the ecological oppression. But for this movement, two things would not have happened. I think Sunita will agree. In 1972, the Stockholm Conference took place as a result of the movements that were taking place from 1960 to 1970. And 1975,